everyone, I'm Joseph here at the Hastings Public Library, and today we are working through the March PIXLab Take and Make. We'll be making these buffalo check bunny decor pieces, so the wooden frame with this buffalo check pattern showing through, and a little pom-pom here for the tail. What you'll need, what you would have gotten in your kits, is this wood frame piece here. It's a wood square. 4 of these trapezoid shaped frame pieces to go on the edges. This mat board cutout of a bunny, and it's the square. A sheet of buffalo check pattern paper. 2 pom-poms, one will be just plain white, and then one will be in a different color. This one's orange, but you might have yellow or green. There is this dowel piece here, and then 2 magnets, a bottle of tacky glue, and in a small container you would have picked up from the other locker, you'll have this container of stain and the brush that was included in your kit. So the first step, speaking of that stain, is to stain any of your wooden pieces that you want to stain. So you have this big wooden frame here. For this, it'll be mostly seen from the back, so you may not want to do that one. But if you want to do these pieces, these will show up on the front. So you'll just do a coat of stain on each of your pieces and let it dry. Some tips for doing this: you'll want to have something to protect your surface, whether that's some old newspaper or otherwise, and then you'll definitely want to let the stain dry for a few hours or overnight. So it will change to this darker color here. You can definitely do more coats of it to make the shade darker. So whether or not you stained your pieces, and once they're dry, you can move on. You'll be working with this sheet of paper here. So what you need to do is cut out a square of this pattern. There's a few ways you can do this. You need a square that is at least 5 inches by 5 inches. An easy way to do that is to count the squares. 13 across by 13 down would be a square big enough. Otherwise, you can take either your wooden frame piece or your mat board piece and just set it over and trace out a square anywhere you like. This way, you can sort of set it at a diagonal and do a diagonal pattern, or just get whatever setup of squares you think works best. So for a lot of pieces in the kit today, they were made using the laser cutter, the frame pieces, the mat board cutout. But the buffalo check pattern is interesting because I actually made it using CorelDRAW, which is the design software we use down here in the PIXLab for a lot of materials. It's how we cut things on the laser cutter. But yeah, you can do that. And I just made some square patterns and repeated them over the whole page. So once you've traced your square, you can go ahead and cut it out. If you have some spare scrapbook paper on hand or some fabric, you could use those just the same. You'd want a square of the same size. But we have provided you with this buffalo check paper here. Okay, so I have a square of the pattern here. The next thing you're going to want to do is glue this to your wooden piece so that it lays flat over the entire square. So you can take your tacky glue and spread it around. I'm going to do it on the wooden piece here. That may be a little easier than the paper, which is kind of flimsy. You want to make sure you get it into all the corners so that it sticks down all the way across the board. If you don't, you can always glue down those corners later. Set it on there, press it down, smooth it out a little if you can. you go. Now, if you have some edges that are overlapping the edge of the wood here a bit, you can trim those up. No big worry. So there you go. The next step, we're going to glue the mat board bunny piece onto the wood and the buffalo check so that the buffalo check shows through. So same idea, since the mat board is a little thicker, I'll glue on there. Here in the PIXLab, we did have a lot of mat board on hand to do this project with, but I've done some other versions with just cardstock and cutting out the design. I'm sure you could also just use paper too, but mat board is a little sturdier. So I've got some glue on there. And I'll put it on top of the buffalo check. With the bunny, we're sort of doing an Easter or spring version of this, but you could definitely use all sorts of different fabrics or patterns or whatnot and do it for all sorts of holidays. With St. Patrick's Day, you could do a shamrock with green mat board, maybe a golden background or whatever works. So get that square, and there you go. So you can see that the buffalo check is showing through in that hole there. The next step is more gluing, but it is maybe the hardest part. You want to take your wooden frame pieces and line those up so they make a square. So if you stick two of them together on their diagonal, they'll make this right angle. You just want to complete that with all four pieces on your board. Line them up here. This might be a little hard to lift up and show you, so refer to the completed one. You can see how those pieces made a square all around the edge. So once you've got them lined up perfectly, or as best as you can, we'll go ahead and glue each piece on. So I'll take one piece off, add some glue to that, and then set it on and start with the next piece. So when I was making this design for the laser cutter, I initially just did a one-piece square with the square cut out in the center. But to save some wood, it was easier to make these separate pieces and then just glue them all separately. You could line them up pretty close to one another on your 12 by 12 board. That saved us a little bit of supplies. With all the gluing in this project, if you find you've got some glue coming out the edges, so on my bottom piece here, there's a little glue. You always wipe that off with paper towel before it dries. While the glue is still wet, if your pieces are a little misaligned, you can work on pushing them back into place so that when it does fully dry, they make a nice square. So, one last thing to glue on here, and that is your pom pom. So we gave you the choice between a colored one or just a plain white one. guess the white one is more traditional, but the colored one adds a little pop of color to this. It's mostly just grayscale, except for those wooden pieces, but that tail can add a little bit of color. So the way this works is though the bunny is facing away from us, and that is the tail. And there you go. The decor is mostly done. Now you just need to figure out how you want to display it. So we've given you a few different ways to do that. As you might have noticed, there are holes on the back of the frame here. One way you could do it is if you have a nail on the wall, just hang it up on the wall using a nail in one of the holes. The other way is you can use the bottom hole in your wooden dowel and put that wooden dowel in there. It should be a pretty close fit. But once you do that, it will stand up using that. The last way uses the two magnets here. And what you do with them is you just glue them into the top corners on the back of your piece. And then you'd be able to hang it on any metallic surface, like your refrigerator or a marker board or anything like that. So that is your completed take and make. Coming up in April for the Pinterest Club, Taylor and Erica will be doing macrame keychains on April 5th. And then for the next take and make, Erica is working on a message frame that you can use Scrabble tiles to spell out messages on. So those should be opening up here in the next few days if they haven't already. So go ahead and sign up, and we hope to see you there. So thanks for coming to my take and make. Happy making.